Would you ever forgive someone who walked out of your life, only to come back when you needed them the most? Emily Carter stood in the bustling cruise terminal, her heart pounding against her ribs as she clutched 3 tickets in her trembling hands. Beside her, her 7-year-old twin daughters, Lily and Sophie, danced with excitement. Their sandy blonde hair caught the soft light streaming through the high windows, and their wide blue eyes sparkled with joy. It was the look Emily had hoped for, a look she had worked so hard to bring to their little faces. This trip had cost her nearly everything she had saved. For months, she had scrimped and sacrificed, skipping small indulgences, working extra shifts at the diner, and turning down any personal luxuries. But now, seeing her girls' faces lit up with wonder, she knew it had all been worth it. This wasn't just a vacation. It was a chance to create a memory they would treasure forever, a moment of happiness in a life that hadn't always been kind. The cruise ship loomed ahead, a towering white palace floating on the sparkling water, its name, the Ocean Majesty, gleaming in gold letters along the side. Passengers streamed toward the boarding ramps, laughing, chatting, and snapping pictures. A voice over the loudspeaker announced the final boarding call for their deck, and Emily felt a rush of panic. Her hands tightened around the tickets, and she quickly checked her purse to ensure she hadn't lost her phone, her ID, or the small envelope of emergency cash she'd tucked away. "Mommy, look, it's so big!" Lily squealed, pointing up at the ship. "Are we really going on that?" "Yes, sweetie," Emily replied, forcing a bright smile. "It's going to be an adventure." "Will we get to swim in the pool?" Sophie added, hopping up and down with excitement. "Yes, but first we have to get on board and find our room." Taking a deep breath, Emily guided the twins forward, merging into the line of passengers. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, and a slight breeze carried the fresh scent of the ocean. As they moved closer to the boarding ramp, Emily's anxiety began to settle. This was her chance to give the girls something magical, something they could remember instead of the struggles they had faced. The staff member at the check-in desk greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Ocean Majesty. May I see your tickets, please?" Emily handed over the tickets, and the staff member scanned them. "You're all set, Ms. Carter. Your cabin is on Deck 5, Room 523. Have a wonderful trip." "Thank you," Emily whispered, relief flooding her chest. As they stepped onto the ship, the twins' eyes grew even wider. Gleaming marble floors stretched beneath towering glass walls, and chandeliers sparkled overhead. The gentle hum of the ship's engines was a soothing backdrop to the lively music that played softly from hidden speakers. Crew members in crisp uniforms guided passengers toward their cabins, and the air was filled with the scent of freshly polished wood and tropical flowers. "Mummy, look." "It's like a castle," Sophie gasped, pointing at a grand staircase that curved up toward a glittering upper deck. "It really is," Emily agreed, a soft smile touching her lips. Their cabin was cozy but comfortable. 2 small beds for the girls and a fold-out couch for Emily. A circular window framed a view of the harbor, where seagulls swooped over the gentle waves. The twins rushed to the window, pressing their faces against the glass. "Look! We can see the water!" Lily shouted, her excitement bubbling over. "Yes, and soon we'll be sailing on it," Emily replied, her voice calm but her heart racing. This was a dream she had worried might never come true. But now, standing in this tiny cabin with her 2 daughters, watching their joy, she felt a rare flicker of hope. Emily helped the girls unpack their small suitcases, carefully hanging their little dresses and folding their swimsuits into a drawer. She set out a few snacks she had brought, knowing that the ship's food might be a bit too pricey for her budget, but she didn't want them to feel like they were missing out. "Can we go explore?" Sophie asked, bouncing on her toes. "Just for a bit," Emily agreed, feeling her own excitement starting to grow. "But stay close to me, okay?" Hand in hand, the 3 of them wandered out into the bustling corridors. They passed elegant lounges filled with plush sofas, a grand dining hall where crystal chandeliers sparkled above rows of neatly set tables, and an outdoor pool where the sunlight danced on the clear blue water. Lily and Sophie were entranced, pointing at everything and asking 100 questions. Emily answered as best she could, her heart swelling with a mix of joy and a lingering sense of disbelief. After everything they had been through, this felt almost too good to be true. For a brief moment, as the ocean breeze swept across the deck, ruffling her daughter's hair, Emily allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could be different now. But somewhere deep inside, a familiar fear whispered that happiness never lasted for her. She pushed that thought aside, squeezing her daughter's hands a little tighter. This was their chance, a chance for happiness, even if just for a little while. The gentle sway of the ship was soothing, but Emily Carter couldn't shake the tightness in her chest. After settling the twins into their cabin, she decided to take them for an early dinner. The buffet hall was a bustling paradise of aromas and colors, with trays of steaming dishes and a dessert station that instantly captured Lily and Sophie's attention. "Mommy, can we try everything?" Lily asked, her wide blue eyes shimmering with excitement. Emily smiled, though the familiar knot of worry tightened in her stomach. "We can try a few things, sweetie." "Let's make sure we get a good dinner first, and then you can choose one special dessert." The girls giggled, and Emily led them down the shining aisles. There were pasta dishes, roasted chicken, fresh salads, and warm bread rolls. The twins each chose a mix of mac and cheese, buttered vegetables, and crispy chicken strips. Emily chose a small salad and a bowl of tomato soup, keeping her choices modest. She didn't want to think about the prices of the specialty dining options. They found a cozy corner table by the large glass windows where the vast ocean stretched out in a glittering blue expanse. The gentle motion of the ship sent a calming rhythm beneath them, a constant reminder that they were truly out on the open sea. "This is the best dinner ever," Sophie declared, her mouth full of mashed potatoes. Emily laughed, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's cheek. "I'm glad you're happy, sweetheart." The twins quickly finished their meals and began eyeing the dessert station. Sophie's gaze settled on a chocolate fountain, while Lily's attention was captured by a colorful array of cupcakes. Emily finally relented, allowing them to choose one treat each. Sophie came back with a small plate of marshmallows dipped in chocolate, and Lily balanced a cupcake topped with a swirl of pink frosting. As they indulged in their sweets, Emily's gaze drifted out the window. The horizon was tinged with the warm golden hues of sunset, and the sky was a canvas of soft pinks and purples. The glow bathed the girls in a magical light, making their golden hair almost shine. For a brief moment, Emily felt a sense of peace, an escape from the worries that always seemed to cling to her. But that peace was short-lived. As she sipped her tea, a shadow crossed her thoughts. She was always aware of how close they lived to the edge one unexpected expense, and they would be back in a tight spot. This trip was a gift, a miracle she had struggled to make happen, but it was also a gamble. She didn't want her daughters to see that fear, so she forced a bright smile. "Mummy, are you okay?" Lily's voice was soft, her small hand reaching out to touch Emily's. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm fine," Emily assured her, leaning in to kiss her daughter's forehead. "I'm just happy watching you two have fun." After dinner, they wandered the ship's grand hallways, exploring the shops filled with sparkling jewelry, colorful souvenirs, and luxury items far beyond Emily's budget. But the girls didn't seem to mind. They were enchanted just by looking. They stopped at a small kiosk selling nautical-themed keychains, and Emily let them each pick one as a keepsake. "Can we go see the pool?" Sophie begged, tugging on Emily's hand. "Just for a little while," Emily agreed, feeling her own excitement building again. They stepped out onto the main deck, where the cool sea breeze swept across their faces. The pool sparkled under the twinkling deck lights, and a live band played soft jazz nearby. Couples danced under the stars, and families gathered around tables, laughing and sharing stories. The twins ran to the edge of the pool, their reflections shimmering on the water's surface. Lily leaned over, her fingers skimming the surface, while Sophie giggled as the wind tossed her golden curls. Emily stood back, watching them with a gentle smile. "Mommy, look." "It's like a movie," Lily called out, spinning around with her arms wide open. Emily laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in a long time. "It sure is." But as she looked around, surrounded by well-dressed couples and families, a familiar pang of insecurity stirred within her. She noticed the polished jewelry on other women's wrists, the crisp suits worn by the men, the quiet ease with which they carried themselves. It was clear that most of the passengers on this cruise lived in a different world, of comfort, security, and luxury. Emily glanced down at her simple summer dress and her well-worn sandals. A small voice whispered that she didn't belong here, that she was an outsider pretending to fit in. But then she looked at her daughters, twirling in the sea breeze, laughing without a care in the world. They didn't see any of that. To them, this was magic. This was a dream come true. "Can we dance too, Mummy?" Sophie asked, her bright eyes sparkling with hope. "Of course," Emily replied, sweeping her daughter into her arms. The three of them danced together, laughing and spinning beneath the soft glow of the deck lights. Emily twirled them one by one, their giggles a melody that seemed to float on the cool night air. For a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the bills, not the worries, not the past, just this moment, this beautiful memory they were creating together. Eventually, the twins grew tired, their energy finally spent. Emily carried Sophie while holding Lily's hand, guiding them back to their cabin. The girls' eyes were already drooping, their sleepy smiles still lingering. "Did you have fun?" Emily whispered as she tucked them into their beds. "The best night ever," Lily mumbled, already drifting off. "Can we do this again tomorrow?" Sophie asked, her voice fading into a yawn. "We'll see, sweetheart," Emily whispered, brushing a gentle kiss against her cheek. As she turned off the light and settled onto the fold-out bed, Emily stared out the small circular window at the starry sky beyond. Tonight, she had given her daughters a memory, a moment of pure joy. And for now, that was enough. But as she closed her eyes, a quiet hope stirred in her heart. Maybe this trip could be more than just an escape. Maybe it could be a beginning. The next morning, the warm sunlight spilled through the small porthole of their cabin, gently waking Emily. She blinked, feeling the gentle sway of the ship beneath her. For a moment, she let herself enjoy the soft light and the steady rhythm of the waves. Then she glanced over at the twins, still curled up in their beds, their golden hair tousled, their faces peaceful. A soft smile touched her lips. This was what she had dreamed of, giving Lily and Sophie a memory they would never forget. A vacation, an adventure, a taste of a world beyond their small apartment and the endless struggles of daily life. But as her thoughts settled, so did her worries. She checked her phone, confirming the balance in her account. The trip had cost almost everything she had saved. A pang of anxiety twisted in her chest, but she pushed it aside. This was worth it. Her daughters were worth it. "Mama, are we going to have another fun day?" Sophie's sleepy voice cut through Emily's thoughts. "Of course, sweetheart," Emily whispered, leaning over to kiss her daughter's forehead. "Why don't we start with breakfast?" The girls sprang to life, their excitement infectious. Within minutes they were dressed and ready, their eyes bright with anticipation. Emily guided them through the winding hallways of the ship, the twins' giggles echoing against the polished walls. They reached the main dining hall, a grand, elegant space filled with sparkling chandeliers and long buffet tables that seemed to stretch forever. The scent of fresh pastries, sizzling bacon, and brewed coffee filled the air. The girls stared wide-eyed, their tiny hands gripping Emily's as they scanned the endless options. "Can we try pancakes?" Lily asked, already tugging Emily toward the pastry section. "And waffles," Sophie added, pointing to a tower of syrup bottles. Emily laughed. "We can try a little of everything, but remember, you have to finish what you choose." The girls nodded eagerly, piling their plates with colorful fruits, golden waffles, and scrambled eggs. Emily kept her own choices modest, a small bowl of yogurt and a slice of toast, her mind still calculating the cost of each meal, even though it was included in their fare. They found a cozy corner table by the tall glass windows, the vast ocean stretching out beyond them, endless and blue. The twins chattered between bites, their laughter a soothing melody to Emily's ears. She listened, letting their joy wash over her, trying to ignore the constant hum of worry in the back of her mind. But as they ate, a quiet sense of unease prickled at the edges of her thoughts. She felt the gaze of someone nearby, a subtle sense of being watched. She glanced around the bustling dining hall. Families, couples, and groups of friends chatted and enjoyed their meals. No one seemed to be paying her or the girls any particular attention. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave her. Suddenly, Sophie leaned across the table, her eyes wide. "Mommy, look at that man! He's wearing a shiny suit!" Emily followed her daughter's gaze and saw him, a tall man with silver-streaked hair, impeccably dressed in a dark blue suit, his posture confident, almost regal. He stood near the grand staircase, listening to a young woman in a crisp uniform. His face was partially turned away, but there was something familiar about him, something that sent a small shiver through her. A memory, distant but vivid, stirred in the back of her mind. Emily's breath caught for just a moment, but she forced herself to look away, focusing back on the girls. "He must be someone important," Emily whispered with a soft smile. "But we're on vacation, so let's not worry about anyone else." The twins nodded, quickly returning to their breakfast. But Emily's gaze kept drifting back to the man, a quiet ache stirring in her chest. As they finished their meal, the girls begged to explore the ship. Emily agreed, and they wandered through the grand hallways, their tiny hands clutching hers as they marveled at the marble floors, the gleaming gold railings, and the elegant artwork lining the walls. They passed a small boutique, its windows filled with glittering jewelry and colorful scarves. The girls pressed their noses against the glass, giggling at the sparkling necklaces. Emily smiled but gently guided them along, knowing that even the smallest trinket would stretch her budget. "Can we see the big pool again, Mommy?" Lily asked, practically bouncing with excitement. "Please, please," Sophie chimed in. Emily laughed, feeling her heart lighten just a little. "All right, but you have to promise to stay where I can see you." They stepped out onto the deck, the cool sea breeze dancing through their hair. The twins rushed to the pool's edge, leaning over to watch the water shimmer under the morning sun. Emily found a quiet spot near the railing, letting the wind cool her face. But that uneasy feeling returned, a quiet, pressing sensation that she was being watched. She turned, her eyes scanning the deck, the bustling crowd of families and sunbathers. And then she saw him again, the man in the dark blue suit, standing by the upper deck railing. His gaze was fixed on the sea, but something about his profile, the sharp line of his jaw, the silver streaks in his hair, it felt like a ghost from her past. Her heart quickened. No, it couldn't be. It was impossible. It had been years, and her life had changed in ways she never imagined. He was just a stranger. He had to be. But as she turned back to the twins, her hands trembled just slightly. The girls were safe, splashing their hands in the cool water, completely unaware of her rising anxiety. "Mommy, can we play in the splash zone?" Sophie begged, already racing toward it. "Yes, but be careful," Emily called out, trying to keep her voice steady. Her gaze flicked back to the upper deck. The man was gone. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was just tired, her nerves frayed from all the worries she carried. But that face, that familiar profile, why did it feel like the past was reaching out to touch her? Emily tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on the twins, their laughter, their joy. But deep down, a quiet fear whispered, a reminder of the life she had tried so hard to leave behind. After spending the morning exploring the ship's grand decks and splashing in the pool, Emily guided Lily and Sophie back to their cabin. The girls skipped ahead, their damp curls bouncing, leaving tiny wet footprints on the carpeted hallway. Their laughter echoed, and for a moment Emily allowed herself to bask in their joy, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had lingered since breakfast. Back in the cabin, the twins tossed their damp swimsuits onto the bathroom floor and changed into cozy pajamas, their cheeks flushed from excitement. Emily helped them untangle their hair, brushing the golden strands gently, her heart swelling with love each time they giggled. "Can we get ice cream later, Mommy?" Lily asked, her wide blue eyes full of hope. "Maybe after dinner," Emily replied, kissing her daughter's forehead. "But for now, let's rest a bit." "I don't want you two getting too tired." The twins didn't argue, curling up on the narrow beds with their favorite stuffed animals, the soft hum of the ship's engine lulling them toward a nap. Emily smiled, tucking the thin blankets around them. As she turned away, her gaze fell on the small porthole, the vast blue sea stretching endlessly beyond. A quiet sigh slipped from her lips. This was supposed to be a dream trip and escape, a chance to create precious memories. And yet, a quiet anxiety gnawed at her. That man she had glimpsed twice now, the one in the dark suit, why did he seem so familiar? Why did his presence unsettle her so deeply? Shaking off the thought, Emily decided to take a short walk, just to clear her mind while the girls rested. She made sure the door was locked behind her, the safety latch securely in place, and slipped her keycard into her pocket. The corridor outside was quiet, most passengers likely enjoying the midday activities on deck. The soft carpet muffled her steps as she wandered, her thoughts racing. The ship's gentle sway beneath her feet was calming, a reminder that they were far from home, far from the daily struggles she had worked so hard to escape, even if just for a few days. But as she turned the corner toward the main atrium, her heart skipped a beat. There he was, standing near the glass railing, his back to her, his silver-streaked hair catching the soft glow of the chandeliers above. He was speaking with someone, a younger man in a crisp uniform who nodded attentively before walking away. Emily froze, instinctively stepping back, her breath catching in her throat. It was him. She was certain of it now, the same sharp profile, the same confident posture, the way his hand rested in his pocket, a subtle, familiar gesture. Her heart pounded wildly, memories she had buried for so long rushing back in a dizzying wave, the nights she had spent alone, the whispered promises he never kept, the letter she had clutched in trembling hands so many years ago. She told herself she was being paranoid, that it couldn't possibly be him. But the ache in her chest argued otherwise. Before she could make sense of her racing thoughts, the man turned, his gaze sweeping the corridor. Emily instinctively ducked behind a tall, ornate vase, her heart hammering so loudly she was certain he would hear it. Peeking through the leaves, she watched as his gaze drifted over the empty hallway, a slight frown on his face. But then he turned and began walking in the opposite direction, his polished shoes clicking softly against the marble floor. Emily stayed hidden, her hand pressed against her chest, willing her heart to slow down. "This is ridiculous," she scolded herself. "You're letting fear control you." Taking a deep, steadying breath, she stepped out from her hiding spot, her eyes following his retreating figure. Was she wrong? Was it just someone who looked like him? After all these years, could fate really be so cruel? Suddenly he paused, his head tilting slightly as though listening to something. And then he turned, his sharp gaze cutting back toward the corridor she stood in. Emily's blood ran cold. For an agonizing moment, his piercing blue eyes swept over her, his expression unreadable. But then, just as quickly, he looked away, continuing down the hallway. Relief washed over Emily, her legs trembling beneath her. He hadn't recognized her, he couldn't have. After all these years, she had changed, become someone else, someone stronger, someone who had survived without him. But as she turned to hurry back to her cabin, a cold, unsettling truth twisted in her chest. If it was him, if he really was here, on this ship, then everything she had tried so hard to protect could come crashing down. Her pace quickened, and by the time she reached the cabin door, she was almost running. Fumbling with the key card, she pushed the door open and slipped inside, locking it behind her. The twins were still curled up on the beds, their soft, steady breathing filling the small space. Emily leaned against the door, pressing a hand to her mouth to quiet the shuddering breaths escaping her. Her mind raced, a dozen questions tangling together. Was it a coincidence? Had he come looking for her? Or was she just seeing ghosts where there were none? No. She needed to stay calm. This was her chance to give her daughters a beautiful memory. She would not let fear steal that from them. But as she stared at their peaceful faces, a quiet, desperate thought slipped through her mind. If it was him, if he had found them, how long would this peace last? She brushed away the tear that slipped free, steeling herself. No matter what, she would protect her girls. She had done it before, and she would do it again. But for the first time in years, Emily felt like the past she had worked so hard to escape was catching up to her, faster than she could run. Emily tried to shake off the lingering sense of unease as the day wore on. She spent the afternoon with Lily and Sophie, guiding them through the bustling activity areas of the ship. They painted seashells in the kids' craft room, played a short game of mini-golf, and even watched a magician perform in the lounge. The girls were enchanted, their bright laughter a melody that brought warmth to Emily's heart. But even in the midst of their joy, a shadow lingered over her. She couldn't stop thinking about the man she had seen, the one she was so sure she recognized. Every time she looked across a crowded deck or glanced down a busy hallway, she half expected to see him again. "Mommy, look, I made a seahorse." Sophie's excited voice pulled Emily from her thoughts. Her daughter held up a brightly painted shell, her cheeks flushed with pride. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Emily said, her smile genuine despite the anxious flutter in her chest. After a simple dinner in the buffet hall, Emily guided the girls back to their cabin. They were tired, their energy finally fading after a full day of fun. The twins changed into their pajamas, brushing their teeth between giggles and half-whispered stories about the magician's tricks. "Are we going to do more fun stuff tomorrow?" Lily asked, crawling under the soft blankets. "Yes, but only if you two get some good sleep tonight," Emily replied, leaning down to kiss each of them on the forehead. "Sweet dreams, my loves." "Good night, Mummy," Sophie mumbled, her eyes already drifting closed. Emily watched them for a moment, their gentle breathing soothing her frayed nerves. She turned off the light, the soft glow of the moon filtering through the porthole, casting a silver sheen across the small cabin. But she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, and fears. Had she really seen him? Or was her imagination playing cruel tricks on her? Would her past really find her here, in the one place she had thought would be a haven? A sudden knock at the door shattered the silence. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. For a moment, she stood frozen, her gaze darting to the twins. They didn't stir. Taking a deep breath, she moved quietly to the door, peeking through the small peephole. A tall man stood in the hallway, his sharp profile half hidden in the soft glow of the corridor lights. Her breath caught. It was him. No, this couldn't be happening. Her hands trembled, her mind racing. Should she open the door? Should she pretend they weren't here? But then she heard the man's muffled voice, speaking to someone just out of sight. "Yes, I'm here. Room 523, just like you said." Her confusion deepened. Room 523. That was her room. She watched as the man pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, studying it under the hallway light. A frown crossed his face. He glanced at the room number on the door, then back at the paper. His expression shifted, confusion, then embarrassment. "I think I've made a mistake. Sorry," he called out, stepping away from the door. Emily's heart pounded against her ribs as she leaned against the door, her legs trembling. He hadn't recognized her. He hadn't been looking for her. It was just a mistake. But as the man's voice faded down the hallway, she felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Mistake or not, it was him. It was Jared. Jared Montgomery. The man she had once loved. The man who had walked out of her life without a word, leaving her alone, confused and heartbroken. And now he was here. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to focus on the steady rhythm of the twins' soft breathing behind her, but the memories were a storm in her mind. Jared's smile, the way he had once held her, the promises he had whispered late at night, all of it shattered by the cold silence that followed his sudden departure. But this wasn't the time to get lost in the past. She had 2 daughters to protect. Girls who knew nothing about the man who had once promised her the world and then vanished without a trace. Pushing away from the door, Emily stepped back, her mind racing. If he was here, she needed to avoid him. She couldn't let him know about Lily and Sophie, couldn't let him disrupt the quiet life she had built for them. But how long could she avoid him on a ship? Would he recognize her if they crossed paths again? Would he even care? A quiet knock echoed through the door again. Emily's heart seized, her hand instinctively pressing against her mouth to stifle a gasp. No, not again. But then she heard a gentle, almost timid voice. Room service. Her tension eased, and she sagged against the wall. Wrong room, she called out, her voice barely steady. There was a soft apology, and the footsteps faded. Emily's knees buckled, and she sank to the carpet, her back against the door, her fingers pressed against her lips. This was supposed to be a magical trip, a memory to cherish, a chance to escape. But now, with Jared's face haunting her every thought, it felt like a dream teetering on the edge of a nightmare. Her mind raced. Could she get off the ship at the next port? Could she change cabins without drawing attention? But what would she tell the girls? How could she explain that the fun, magical cruise she had promised them was now a desperate escape? Tears stung at the corners of her eyes, but she forced them back. No, she wouldn't cry. Not now. Not when she needed to be strong. But as she leaned against the door, listening to the soft, steady breathing of her daughters, she couldn't escape the suffocating weight of fear pressing against her chest. Jared was here, and whether he knew it or not, he had already changed everything. The next morning, Emily tried to shake off the unease that had wrapped itself around her heart. She went through the motions, helping Lily and Sophie get dressed, brushing their golden curls and encouraging their excitement as they planned their next adventure on the ship. But a quiet dread shadowed her thoughts. Jared was here somewhere on this ship, and every moment felt like walking on thin ice, but she couldn't let her daughters see her fear. This was their magical vacation, their escape from the grey routines of everyday life. She forced a smile, laughing along with their jokes, guiding them through the bustling breakfast buffet. The girls piled their plates with pancakes, fresh fruit, and a mountain of whipped cream. Emily chose a small bowl of yogurt, her appetite dulled by anxiety. "Mommy, can we go to the kids' club today?" Sophie asked, her voice muffled by a mouthful of strawberries. "And can we swim again?" Lily added, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course," Emily replied, trying to keep her tone light. "We can do whatever you want." But as they finished their breakfast and stepped out onto the grand deck, her gaze scanned the bustling crowd. Families lounged by the pool, couples sipped bright tropical drinks, and children laughed as they raced along the sun-drenched paths. Jared could be anywhere, just one turn away, just one chance encounter from her entire world falling apart. After settling the twins in the kids' club, brightly decorated play area filled with games, crafts, and smiling attendants, Emily wandered back toward the main atrium. The sunlight streamed through the glass dome above, casting warm golden rays across the marble floors. She tried to breathe, to steady herself. Maybe it was all in her head. Maybe Jared didn't even remember her. But then she saw him. Standing by the glass railing of the grand staircase, Jared was speaking with a young woman in a polished uniform. His silver-streaked hair caught the sunlight, and his tall, confident posture made him impossible to miss. He seemed so at ease, so perfectly in control, just as she remembered. But there was something else in his expression now, something older, wearier. Emily's heart raced. Her first instinct was to turn away, to hide, to retreat before he could see her. But then his gaze shifted, his sharp blue eyes sweeping across the atrium, and they locked onto her. The world seemed to slow. She felt the floor sway beneath her, but it wasn't the ship. It was her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Jared's expression froze, surprise flickering in his eyes, then disbelief. "Emily." His voice was barely a whisper, but it seemed to echo in her mind. Her breath caught, her throat tightening. "Run!" a voice screamed inside her. "Run and take the girls!" But her legs wouldn't move. She stood rooted to the spot, her hands trembling at her sides. He moved, crossing the space between them with a few long strides. "Emily, it's you." His voice was stronger now, tinged with something she couldn't quite place. Shock, regret, hope. Her voice failed, her mind a storm of panic and confusion. "Jared, what are you?" He struggled for words, his usual confidence faltering. "It's been so long. I didn't think I'd ever see you again." Emily's pulse roared in her ears. The urge to run fought against 1,000 questions she had buried for years. But her fear won. She stepped back, her gaze darting toward the corridor that led to the kids' club. I have to go," she managed, her voice breaking. "Wait!" Jared's hand reached out, but he didn't touch her. "Please, Emily, I know I don't deserve it, but please, just talk to me." A sharp ache twisted in her chest. Memories crashed over her, the late-night promises, the whispered dreams, the aching silence that followed when he disappeared. She shook her head, a tear slipping free. "There's nothing to say." She turned, forcing herself to walk away, her legs shaking beneath her. But his voice called after her, a quiet desperation in his tone. "Emily, please. I didn't mean to. I never meant to leave you like that." She didn't turn around. Her feet carried her faster, her breath coming in short, painful bursts. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls closing in. She needed to get to the girls, to make sure they were safe, to figure out what to do next. Pushing through the kids' club doors, she forced a smile as the twins looked up, their faces bright with joy. "Mommy," Sophie called, racing over to her, a glittery craft in her hands. "Look what I made." "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Emily whispered, hugging her tightly, her voice trembling. "Are you okay, Mommy?" Lily asked, her wide eyes full of concern. "Yes, baby, I'm fine," Emily lied, brushing a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. I just missed you both." But her mind was racing. He had recognized her. He wanted to talk. He still had the same piercing blue eyes, the same gentle smile, now tinged with something that almost looked like regret. How could this be happening? After all these years, after everything she had fought to rebuild, to protect, how could he just appear here, in this tiny, magical world she had tried to create for her daughters? "Mommy, can we keep playing?" Sophie asked, tugging on her hand. "Of course, sweetie," Emily managed, guiding them back to the crafts table. "I'll just be right here." She sat down, her trembling hands hidden beneath the table, her gaze fixed on the girls. But her thoughts were a whirlwind. He was here. He had seen her, and there was no running now. Would he come looking for her? Would he try to talk to her again? Would he find out about the girls? Her chest tightened painfully. She needed a plan. She needed to protect them. But as she watched them laugh, blissfully unaware, a quiet, terrible truth settled over her. The past she had tried so hard to escape was here. And this time, it wasn't going away. Emily spent the rest of the day in a haze, her mind racing with fear and confusion. Jared was here. He had seen her. He had spoken to her, and she had run. Panic pulsed through her veins like a drumbeat, but she couldn't let it show, not in front of the girls. She forced a smile, played along with their games, and even helped them paint seashells in the kids' club. But inside, she was crumbling. After dinner, she led Lily and Sophie back to their cabin, guiding them through the bustling hallways. The twins chatted excitedly, completely unaware of the storm brewing in their mother's heart. Emily tried to focus on them, but every shadow, every passing face made her flinch. Was Jared looking for her? Would he try to talk to her again? Back in the cabin, she helped the girls into their pajamas, brushed their hair, and tucked them into bed. Their soft breathing soon filled the room, and she leaned against the door, pressing a trembling hand to her lips. But the silence only made her anxiety grow. What would she do if he found them? How could she protect her daughters? How could she explain? A sudden knock at the door shattered the quiet. Emily's breath caught. Her eyes flew to the sleeping twins, then to the door. Another knock, louder this time. She crept closer, her heart racing. Peering through the peephole, she saw him. Jared stood just outside, his tall frame tense, his sharp blue eyes searching the hallway. "Emily?" His voice was muffled through the door, but she could hear the desperation in it. "Please, I know you're there." Her breath came in short, shallow bursts. He had found her. He wasn't going to leave. Her fingers tightened on the door handle. Should she ignore him? Pretend she wasn't here? But the girls, if he kept knocking, they might wake up. "Emily, please, just give me a minute." "Just let me explain." The sound of his voice tugged at something deep inside her, a place she had tried to bury for so long. Memories flashed stolen kisses under the stars, whispered dreams of a future they never had, the way his laughter had once filled her world with light. But those memories were ashes now. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked the door and pulled it open just enough to step outside. She closed it behind her, blocking his view of the sleeping twins. The corridor was quiet, the soft hum of the ship's engine the only sound. "What do you want, Jared?" Her voice was tight, her hands trembling at her sides. He looked at her, relief washing over his face. But there was something else there too. Guilt. Regret. I needed to see you. To talk to you. Emily, You shouldn't be here." Her words came out sharper than she intended. "You shouldn't even be talking to me." "I know," he whispered, his voice raw. "I know I shouldn't expect you to even look at me. But I have to. I have to tell you, I'm sorry. I never meant to." "To what?" she cut in, anger flaring. "To disappear, to leave me without a word, to make me wonder what I did wrong." "Emily, please." Jared's voice cracked. He reached out, but she stepped back, her arms folding protectively across her chest. Don't you dare try to make this better now, not after all this time." He looked down, his jaw tightening. "I know I hurt you. I know I failed you, but you have to believe me, I never stopped thinking about you." She let out a bitter laugh. "Is that supposed to make me feel better? That you thought about me while I was struggling to keep a roof over our heads, while I was alone?" Jared's eyes widened, confusion rippling across his face. "Wait, our heads? Emily, what do you mean?" Her heart stopped. Panic clawed at her chest. She hadn't meant to say that, hadn't meant to give anything away, but Jared wasn't stupid. His gaze darted to the door behind her, realization dawning in his eyes. "Emily, are they?" "No." Her voice was a sharp, desperate whisper. "No, you don't get to know. You don't get to waltz back into my life and... Her words choked off, tears burning in her eyes. Jared stepped closer, his voice softer, pleading. "Emily, please, just tell me, are they mine?" A cold, terrible silence stretched between them. His eyes searched hers, desperate, afraid. And for a moment, she saw a flicker of the man she had once loved, the man who had promised her forever. "They don't know you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They don't even know you exist." Jared's face crumbled, his shoulders sagging as if the weight of her words had struck him physically. "Emily, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. If I had—" "Would it have made a difference?" Her voice was raw, a bitter edge to her words. "Would you have come back? Would you have stayed?" I don't know," he admitted, shame coloring his voice, "but I can be here now." "Please, Emily, let me see them." "No." She shook her head, anger surging to drown out the pain. "You don't get to make this about you. You don't get to pretend you care now that it's convenient." "I'm not pretending." His voice broke, a raw, desperate edge cutting through his words. "I never stopped caring. I never forgot you." "Then why did you leave?" she cried, her voice breaking. "Why did you just disappear?" Jared's gaze dropped to the floor, his fists clenching at his sides. "I was scared. I was stupid. I thought I needed to build something first, become something. I thought I could come back when I was ready, but I never imagined you thought I'd just wait for you." Emily's voice was a whisper now, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That I'd stand still while you chased your dreams?" "I was wrong," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I was so wrong, and now I just want a chance to make it right." Emily stared at him, her breath shaking. A part of her wanted to slam the door, to lock it and never let him in. But another part, the part that had once loved him, the part that had never really stopped loving him, ached with a longing she couldn't ignore. "They're asleep," she whispered, "and you're not waking them." Jared's eyes shone with emotion, but he nodded, stepping back. "I understand." "Do you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Because I'm not sure I do." She turned, slipping back into the cabin, the door clicking shut between them. And for a long time, Jared stood alone in the silent hallway, his head bowed, his shoulders heavy with regret. Emily leaned against the closed door, her chest heaving, her hand pressed against her racing heart. The room was quiet, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon filtering through the porthole. Lily and Sophie were still asleep, their gentle breathing the only sound that anchored her. But inside, she was a storm. Jared knew, maybe not everything, but he knew enough. And the look in his eyes, shock, regret, desperation, it was a look she had never expected to see again. It twisted something deep inside her, something she thought she had buried. But she had to be strong. Not for herself, but for her daughters. They were all that mattered now. Morning came too quickly. Emily barely slept, her mind a whirl of fear and anger. She went through the motions, guiding the girls through breakfast, listening to their giggles, forcing a smile. But every shadow, every passing figure made her flinch. Jared was somewhere on this ship, and she didn't know what he would do next. "Mummy, can we go to the pool again?" Lily asked, her wide eyes full of excitement. "Please, please," Sophie echoed, bouncing in her seat. "Of course, sweethearts," Emily whispered, brushing a lock of hair from Lily's face. "But you have to promise to stay where I can see you, okay?" The girls nodded, practically leaping from their chairs. Emily tried to relax as they reached the pool deck, settling onto a sun lounger with a clear view of the shallow end. The twins wasted no time, splashing and laughing with the boundless joy only children could have. But Emily's gaze swept the crowd, her chest tightening with every unfamiliar face. Was he watching? Would he try to approach them here? Would he— "Emily." His voice was soft but unmistakable. She froze, her fingers clenching the edge of the lounger. Slowly she looked up, and there he was, Jared. He stood a few feet away, his expression a mixture of caution and longing. "Please," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just a moment. That's all I'm asking." Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't want to cause a scene. Not here. Not in front of the girls. She rose, her legs feeling unsteady, and led him a few steps away, just out of earshot of the children. Her voice was sharp, her words a whispered hiss. "What do you think you're doing?" "Emily, I'm not trying to scare you," Jared said, his eyes pleading. I need to understand. Are they mine? She looked away, her gaze fixed on the shimmering pool where Lily and Sophie were playing, blissfully unaware of the turmoil swirling around them. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. But you do, he pressed gently. You know who I am, and you know they look just like me. Her breath caught. He was right, of course. It was undeniable, the girl's bright blue eyes, their sandy blonde curls. They were a perfect reflection of him. But she had hoped, prayed, that he would never know. Please, Emily, Jared's voice softened, his tone almost desperate. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to know them. To know them like you do. Tears stung at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Know them? You think you can just walk in and... I'm not asking for miracles, he interrupted, his voice cracking. I'm not asking for forgiveness. But I can't walk away from them now. Not now that I know. They don't need you, she whispered, a hint of anger flaring. I raised them. I protected them. I loved them. They don't need a father who only shows up when it's convenient. Jared flinched, as if she had struck him, his jaw tightening. That's not fair. I didn't know. Because you didn't care. Her voice was sharper now, but she forced it back to a whisper. You were too busy chasing your dreams, making a name for yourself. You left, Jared. You left without a word. And I had to pick up the pieces. I know, he whispered, his voice raw with regret. I know I failed you. But I'm here now. I want to be here now. Emily's gaze softened, just for a moment. She saw the pain in his eyes, the quiet desperation. But she couldn't just let him walk in and shatter the world she had built. I won't let you hurt them, she whispered. I won't let you make promises you won't keep. I won't leave again, Emily, I swear it, Jared said, his voice trembling. Just, please, just give me a chance. Let me meet them. Emily looked away, her hands trembling. She watched the twins as they chased each other in the shallow water, their laughter a bright, beautiful melody. They were her world, her life, and she had fought so hard to keep them safe, but they deserved to know the truth. Didn't they? Or would the truth only bring them pain? Not now, she whispered, her voice breaking. Not like this. Jared's shoulders slumped, but he nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. I understand, but please, Emily, I'm not giving up. Not on them. Not on you. He stepped back, his gaze lingering on her, a quiet sadness shadowing his face. And then he turned, disappearing into the bustling crowd. Emily's breath came in shaky gasps, her legs barely supporting her. She sank back onto the lounger, pressing a hand to her forehead. Mommy? Mommy, look! Sophie's voice was bright, her laughter ringing out like a bell. Lily splashed me! Emily forced a smile, waving to them. Be careful, sweethearts! But her heart was anything but calm. The fragile truth she had hidden for so long was unraveling, and she didn't know how to protect her daughters from the storm that was coming. She watched them play, her mind a whirlwind. Would they hate her for hiding the truth? Would they run to Jared, believing his promises? Or would he break them, just like he had broken her? Her chest tightened, tears burning in her eyes. And in the distance, Jared stood alone, watching them with a longing that cut her to the core. Jared stood by the ship's railing, the cool ocean breeze tugging at his neatly pressed shirt, but he barely felt it. His mind was a storm, a relentless swirl of regret, fear, and a fierce, unexpected longing. He had come on this cruise to finalize a business deal, to secure another piece of his ever-growing empire. But now, all of that seemed distant, almost meaningless. Emily's words echoed in his mind. They don't need you. The truth of it stung like a lash. She was right. He hadn't been there. He had chosen ambition over love, over family, chasing success across oceans and continents. He had become everything he once promised her he would never be. But he was here now, and he couldn't just walk away. From across the pool deck, he watched as Emily sat with the twins, their golden curls glinting in the sunlight. They were perfect, so full of life, so innocent. And yet, they had no idea who he was, no idea that he might be their father, his father. The word twisted something in his chest. Was he even worthy of that title? What did he have to offer them beyond a name and a fortune? Would they even want him in their lives? Jared turned away, his hands gripping the railing until his knuckles turned white. He had to do something more than just standing here, watching, wanting. But how could he make up for years of absence? How could he prove to Emily that he wasn't just here to ease his own guilt? His phone buzzed, a reminder of the real reason he was on this shipper meeting with international partners who could transform his company's future. His assistant's text flashed on the screen. The board is concerned about the rumors. Are you going to address them? Rumors. He had seen the curious looks, heard the whispers. Even in this floating paradise, gossip spread faster than the ocean breeze. People were starting to notice him watching Emily and the girls. Some had even begun snapping photos, no doubt hoping to sell a scandal to the tabloids. He should have cared. This kind of distraction could damage his reputation, destabilize his business. But at this moment, none of that mattered. Only one thing mattered. The twins. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Jared, there you are." His assistant, a sharply dressed young woman with a tablet clutched to her chest, approached, her face a mask of polite anxiety. "The investors are asking for confirmation that the meeting is still on for tonight. They're worried about the situation." Jared let out a slow breath, trying to compose himself. "The meeting will go on as planned," he said, his voice steady but cold. "But I have another matter to deal with first." The assistant hesitated, confusion crossing her face. "Sir, the rumors." "I don't care about the rumors," Jared snapped, his voice firmer now. "I care about the truth." He turned away, his gaze fixed on the distant figures of Emily and the twins. His assistant followed his gaze, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Sir, do you want me to... should I help manage the narrative?" "Manage?" Jared repeated, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "There's no managing this. There's only facing it." Leaving his assistant behind, he strode across the deck, his mind made up. He had spent years hiding from the consequences of his choices. But now, for the first time in his life, he wasn't running. He was going to stand his ground. Emily looked up as he approached, her face immediately tightening. He saw the fear in her eyes, the protective way she leaned toward the twins. His heart ached. "I'm not here to fight, Emily," he said, stopping a respectful distance away. I need to tell you something." "Jared, please," she began, but he shook his head, his voice calm but unyielding. "No. You've said your piece. You've told me I wasn't there, that I don't deserve to be part of their lives. And you're right, but I'm not walking away, not this time." Her expression shifted, a mix of fear and anger. "You think you can just show up and—" "I don't think anything," he interrupted gently, but firmly. "I just know that they're mine, and I won't lie to them. I won't let them grow up wondering why their father wasn't there. I won't be a ghost in their lives." "Jared?" Her voice wavered, her gaze flicking to the twins who were too busy chasing each other around the lounge chairs to notice the tension. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he continued, his voice cracking. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I know I don't deserve either, but I am asking you to let me be a part of their lives, to let me try. They deserve to know who I am." Emily's breath came faster, her hand instinctively reaching out to steady herself against the back of a chair. "And what? You just expect them to love you? To accept you. I don't expect anything, Jared whispered, his voice raw. But I'm willing to work for it. I'm willing to be here, no matter how long it takes. Because they deserve to choose for themselves. A thick silence settled between them, only the distant sound of waves and laughter filling the air. Emily's eyes shone with unshed tears, her shoulders trembling. You left, Jared.
You left without a word. I was alone.
I know,
He whispered, shame flooding his voice. I know, and I will never forgive myself for that.
but I'm here now. Please, let me show them I can be more than just a mistake you once knew. Her gaze softened, just for a moment before hardening again. If you hurt them, if you break their hearts, I swear I will never forgive you. I understand, Jared replied, his voice steady. I won't. I swear it. Emily wiped at her eyes, her breath shaking. We will talk. But not now. Not here. I'll be here, Jared promised, stepping back, his gaze lingering on the twins. Whenever you're ready. He turned and walked away, each step heavy with the weight of his own choices. But for the first time in years, he felt something else too. Hope. The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and pink. Emily stood by the ship's railing, the soft ocean breeze tugging at her hair. Lily and Sophie were by her side, their laughter rising and falling with the gentle sway of the ship. They pointed excitedly at the distant seagulls swooping over the waves, oblivious to the storm of emotions swirling within their mother. But Emily's heart was a tangled knot. The last few days had upended everything she thought she knew. Jared's sudden reappearance, his desperate plea to be a part of the girls' lives, his look of regret and longing, all of it left her feeling exposed, vulnerable. Yet he hadn't given up. Even when she pushed him away, even when she threw every bitter word she could think of, he had stayed. He had listened, and he had promised not to leave again. Could she believe him? Could she trust the man who had once vanished without a trace? Her thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. Emily? She turned, and there he was, Jared, standing a few steps away. He looked different now, less like the confident CEO she had once loved, and more like a man searching for something he feared he might never find. Can we talk? He asked, his voice gentle, his eyes filled with quiet hope. She glanced at the twins, who were still entranced by the seagulls. Then she nodded, leading Jared to a quieter corner of the deck. I meant what I said, he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. I'm not going to disappear. I want to be here for them. For you. I don't know if I can trust you, Emily whispered, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. You say that now, but what happens when your business calls? When your perfect life pulls you away again? I've changed, Emily, Jared said, stepping closer, but careful not to overstep. Losing you, losing the chance to be their father, it made me realize how empty my success really is. All the money, the deals, the fancy suits, they mean nothing without you, without them. She searched his face, looking for a lie, a hint of the old Jared who had always put his ambitions first. But all she saw was sincerity, tinged with pain. Actions speak louder than words, Jared, she whispered, her voice wavering. You can't just promise your way back into our lives. I know, he nodded. That's why I want to prove it. I want to earn your trust. I want to earn their love. A tense silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sound of waves crashing against the ship's hull. And if I say no? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. If I decide it's too late? If I decide I don't want you in their lives? Jared's face tightened, a flash of pain crossing his features. But he nodded, accepting the possibility. Then I will still be here. I will do whatever I can to make sure they're happy, even if it means watching from a distance. But I hope, You'll give me a chance. Emily's breath caught. A part of her wanted to tell him to leave, to protect her daughters from the heartbreak she had endured. But another part, the part that still remembered the boy she had once loved, the man who now stood before her with tears in his eyes, longed to believe him. Mummy. Mummy, look! Sophie's voice broke through the tension. Emily turned to see the twins running toward them, their faces lit up with joy. Mummy, we saw a dolphin! Lily squealed, her small hands waving with excitement. Really? Emily forced a smile, her heart pounding. That's amazing, sweethearts! The girls reached her side, their energy like a bright, warm light breaking through the storm of her thoughts. Jared crouched beside them, a gentle smile softening his face. Wow, a dolphin? He said, his voice warm and playful. That's incredible. I've never seen one up close before. Lily beamed. It was so fast, it jumped out of the water and splashed back down. Can we see it again? Sophie begged, grabbing Emily's hand. Emily's gaze flicked to Jared, who stood with a quiet, hopeful expression. This was it, the moment she had to decide. The moment she had to choose between fear and faith. Maybe we can, she whispered, her voice steadying. But first, there's something you two should know. The twins looked up at her, their bright blue eyes wide with curiosity. Jared's breath seemed to catch, his face pale but determined. This is Jared, Emily said softly, kneeling beside them. He's someone very special. Someone I once cared about a lot. And he's your father. The words hung in the air, heavy and terrifying. Emily's heart raced, her hands trembling as she watched the confusion on her daughters' faces. Our father, Lily whispered, glancing between Emily and Jared. But where was he? Jared's face twisted with pain, but he forced a gentle smile. That's a long story, sweetheart. And it's one I want to tell you, if you'll let me. Sophie frowned, her small brows knitting together. But why didn't you come before? Jared's voice broke. Because I was foolish. I made mistakes, and I didn't know. I didn't know about you. But now that I do, I promise I'm not going anywhere. Silence settled over them. Emily's heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. But then, slowly, Lily stepped forward, wrapping her small arms around Jared's neck. Don't leave again, she whispered, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Tears streamed down Jared's face as he hugged her, his voice a choked whisper. I won't. I promise. Sophie hesitated, then followed her sister, wrapping her arms around them both. Emily stood there, her vision blurred with tears, and for the first time in years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Jared looked up, his tear-filled eyes meeting hers. Thank you, he whispered. Emily smiled, a shaky, tentative smile that grew stronger with each heartbeat. Don't thank me yet. This isn't going to be easy. I don't care, Jared whispered, holding the twins close. As long as we're together, I'll never let go. The sun sank below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the ocean, and for the first time in a long time, Emily dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could find a new beginning. This story of Emily, Jared, and their two daughters is a heartfelt reminder that family is not just defined by shared blood, but by the love, effort, and commitment we give to one another. It shows that even after years of mistakes and regret, it is never too late to try to make things right. Jared's journey from a successful but lonely businessman to a father striving to earn his children's love demonstrates that true wealth is not measured in money or achievements, but in the relationships we nurture. For older audiences, this story serves as a poignant reflection on the value of second chances. It is a reminder that we are never too old to seek forgiveness, to reconnect with loved ones, or to admit our mistakes. Life can take unexpected turns, But the courage to mend broken bonds, the humility to apologize, and the willingness to open our hearts again can create new beginnings, even after years of distance.